All right. So, welcome back, everyone, to the Radiant Woman podcast. And yay, I'm so excited today to bring on Jess McKinley Uyeno. Did I say that right?
You did it. You
Yes.
nailed it. Like, I feel like
I
everyone
did.
just deserves massive points for just introducing me.
Yay! All right, good. My overachiever is very happy. Um, okay, so excited to have you on here today to share your wisdom and your knowledge, Jess. So, just for everyone who doesn't know Jess, so Jess is mentor to the most interesting women in the world. She's the host of the Fun Money podcast. And I love this. So she helps women to blow up their net worth, but keep it the least interesting thing about that. So I love this so much, and I'm so excited to receive your wisdom today. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so funny because out there, I feel like because I talk about money so much, people assume that we're actually talking a lot about money inside of my programs and with my clients, but we spend about a tenth of the time setting up the infrastructure for the games. And I'm really, really passionate about personal finance and just financial literacy because there's so many entrepreneurs that get into the game. And the reason that they quit is literally because of a lack of understanding on how to keep their cash flow
Yeah.
flowing, right? And it's just so much easier and it feels so much more fun to tap into your own genius and to like keep going and doing the things that make your life so interesting when you feel safe from
Mm.
your nervous system because you understand how your money is not actually the problem that you may think it is.
1,000, yes, 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 yes. 1,000%. And I love talking about this so much. And I have some questions prepared for you here. And like let's definitely dive into that. But just to start, like, and okay, first of all, I love that we met in Puerto Rico. So a few weeks ago, we were in Puerto Rico together. It was such a vibe. And like I just remember we met at a dinner the first time, and then and I just remember, like, and then we're standing outside the restaurant at the end, and like it was almost like I didn't even realize, but I like had my kind of hand like on your shoulder, and I think I was like touching your hair or something. And then like you were also touching me, and we're like, oh my
Sounded
god,
great.
like we're both super kinesthetic. I love you. Like
Honestly, like I was like, I don't even remember that. That's like my baseline is like inappropriate touching of the humans. And it's so funny because I have two children and my son is just like me. Like he
yeah.
touches strangers and we have to talk about consent all the time. And like my daughter is the opposite. I'm like, oh, good night, baby. And she's like, cheek. Like
Yeah.
she like doesn't want me to give her a kiss. I'm like, I birthed you. Give
Yeah.
me affection.
Oh my God, yeah,
Yes,
that's my son as well. So yeah, I hear you. So
get into it
it's
quick.
yeah, so good. So I love that we have that connection first. Okay, so let's start with just tell us a bit about, I love getting to know people more. So like how did you share a bit about your story of like how like what brought you to where you are right now in your life and this work that you're doing now? How did you, yeah, how did you get into all of this?
Well, unironically, it is a very interesting story. It is um, just one of those accidental, one thing doesn't seem to lead into the next thing the path was so non-traditional, but I think that that's pretty common for entrepreneurs, right? Most entrepreneurs follow the breadcrumbs. They're actually asking themselves this question, not usually what do I want, but like what don't I want? And I feel for me, that was kind of my path here. I got a fancy degree at Northeastern University in Boston, in international affairs. And other than having affairs internationally, I certainly didn't end up going in that direction with my career. And what I did get from that experience was I studied abroad and then I went back to work abroad in Spain after I graduated, and I was a tour guide to Morocco and Portugal. And I was working with all sorts of students from all over the world, like Erasmus students mostly in Europe. And I just loved, well, first of all, I loved sales. So I got hired during a time when the economy had crashed in the world and everything was really kind of scarce. The mentality all over the world was scarce, very much so in the States and very much so in Spain. Like there were like those the specific like probably like top 10 countries that felt like a huge drastic drop, and Spain was one of them. And so it was very unlikely that I was gonna be able to find a job, but I needed one. And this is so meta for me right now because I have all of these experiences where for me on paper it looked like money was not going to come to me in the way that it needed to and at the speed that it needed to. And I just never accepted that. I was just like, okay, cool. My dad was like, I don't think you should go because we're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to afford it. I can't send you extra money. He had lost his job. And yeah, and so I ended up going really quickly and being like, when you understand sales, like when you know how to serve people through sales, like really, 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 it becomes a part of this earning game that I just always loved, even as a kid. Like as soon as I could could work when I was 15, I was like, yeah, let's figure out another creative way to have money come in by Saturday. And so I started playing this earning game and learning over there, moved back, moved to Peru, and then people would just be like, how are you able to just like
Totally.
travel and you're like, money is coming in? And I think a lot of people were assuming my parents were funding this, and they were not. I tell you, they immediately, when I went to college, they were like, we're moving to Miami. And I lived in New York at the time, and they were like, bye. And they downsized into an apartment. So there was like no coming back once I was 18. And they moved when I was in Spain, and they were like, you'll figure it out. And I had a round trip ticket to New York, and there was like no home. Like my childhood home was gone. And yeah, and so I just think every time that there was this situation that felt like an unexpected circumstance that most people would say like this is a bad thing that happened, I found a way to make it the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm,
And the same, I ended up getting divorced when my son was just about 2 years old. And um, during that time, it was, financially, I realized at that point, oh, there's actually more money games than just earning. Like
mm,
there's spending, like how much does my life cost, what is the cost, what is a budget? Like I just had no clue, especially as I was shifting into single motherhood in New York in a very expensive time. And at that time my business was brand new and I was making like 18 grand a year, like nothing.
wow.
And and so it was very scary, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna nerd out on money and I'm gonna get like really obsessed with the budget. And what everyone kind of told me that was going to mean was that I was going to spend less. Like you have to pull back and you have to. But what I found in this budget was like this hack, this like way in this world for me to see, okay, I want to be so intentional. Every dollar has to play a role. And how much of this do I want to invest? And how much of this do I want to save? And how much do you have to save and invest when you have children and it's not just about you anymore? And instead of succumbing to the scarcity piece, I just really found the game in it. And so I started teaching. I realized that some of my clients who were business owners were not paying themselves consistent salaries. That was like a common problem. And
Mm,
so, yeah, I started to teach my clients how I was learning it, like how I had gotten consistent. This ended up developing into the six money games that I now teach, people who are already earning over 1 million, and you'd be so surprised the back end. It's like they only know how to run the earnings game and they want to out earn all of their other lack of knowledge.
oh no, I 100% like I've been entrepreneuring for like the last decade, and I've worked with women all the way through from, just starting businesses to even curious to like multi-millionaires. And I've literally seen this, and it was part of the reason why I invited you on here, and I was so excited to have this conversation because it's a very common thread I see, and it just makes so much sense, right? Because it's like at school when we're not taught, we're just taught to like work and then receive a weekly monthly salary, and then you spend it on this, and then like what, it's just so fucking basic, right? And then so then what happens, of course, and like this was my journey of, I literally went from a waitress doing like $16 an hour to like by the time I was 27 we had our first 20 $30,000 months. But that was, I was
Mhm.
just like, oh my God, like just friggin' doing like the money,
Yeah.
like
Hello.
making it rain. And it just was like it came in and it went out. And I
Yeah.
and it kept, and this, yeah, like I noticed that because I just, it's like I was, so it's like there's so many, this is what I've seen, there's so many women who are good at making money,
Hmm.
but then like the rest of it is like terrible. Or like so many women who make really good money only to end up like at the end of the month, or there's no money left, and they're like, where did all the money go? So it's like
Yeah.
100
And it builds
100%.
it just breaks so much self-trust. And as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, self-trust is so important. You have to trust that you're going to be able to, pay a contract that you are bringing in. Or if a lot of us, I know for me, like I'm making decisions sometimes one time for a 6-month contract or for a year-long contract, or,
Yeah.
my podcast production team. And that was going to be like close to like $1,600 a month. And I was like, can I afford to bring in a whole production team? But I feel like for my time and my goals, and
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my mom the other day about someone else that we know, and I was just like, I don't understand when I ask someone and they're like very curious about like, oh, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, and then I ask them one like basic clarifying question about like, well, how much does this kind of cost you? Or how much are you like, what's your monthly fixed expenses? And they just have no clue. And I'm like, how do you make decisions? Like, how do you make decisions about anything? People just cross their fingers and close their eyes, and then they reshift their energy on trying to out earn their overspending or out earn their lack of the vagueness. But the problem with that is even in the cases where people are able to successfully do that, because I do see that plenty,
Hmm.
they don't feel safe. They feel so anxious, like it's gonna go away. And
Hmm.
so because of that, they're still not able to play as big as they want. They're not able to do like these things that just feel really interesting to them, and they're not really sure what the ROI is going to be because they don't know how to track ROI, or they don't have enough metrics in their systems.
Totally. Yes. And this is like, this is so juicy because it's like, me too. I've seen women who are literally multi-million millionaires and they're stressed about money.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so I would love to hear like your kind of perspective, because it's almost like we're looking at it through two different windows. You're looking at it through this more kind of like logical and like the management and like getting real about really looking at the money and the strategy around managing it. Whereas when I work with women, it's looking at it through the lens of like, oh, okay, cool. What's your relationship
Sure.
to money? And something fascinating. And I'd love to hear like your perspectives on this. But one of the most fascinating things that I've seen is like the correlation between people feel about money, because a relationship to something is just how we feel about it, right? And so it's what I've seen
Yeah.
is like the way people feel about money is the way that they still feel about their mother and father in some way. So, for
Mm.
example, like I've seen, and I had this fascinating case with a woman who she was doing like 40K months and like doing all the like amazing in business, all the things. And then we had two sessions where it was healing some unresolved stuff with her dad. And then two sessions, and then she voice notes me and she's like, I just had an 80K month, and I was like, what the hell? And then and because I like because this was a mentor who first shared this with me of like, oh, our relationship with money is often reflected in our relationship with our parents. And so these feelings of like money, like you said, that lack of safety of like money always leaves me, or money always abandons me, or money isn't
Sure.
there for me when I need it, or like or having this just very tumultuous relationship with money. And I've seen that so much in my own life over the last 10 years of just having this wild relationship where it's like this feast and famine, and 1 second there's this much, and and then that was my relationship with my parents as well. So I'd love, like, yeah, what have you seen with that, and just kind of
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've always had a pretty healthy relationship with money, and I do have like a secure attachment love style, and I did have like a pretty stable relationship with my parents growing up, so that doesn't surprise me. I think my parents, not really my parents, my dad talked about money a lot. In fact, I've had him as a guest on my podcast, and it's like one of my listeners' favorite episodes, and we talk about like a father-daughter relationship that like builds like how to build confidence in the next generation. And now, I have kids and I'm talking to them about money and like, what do we want to model? What are we modeling? Because at the end of the day, whether it's with money or something else, as a parent, I always say the best gift that you can give your kids is the example of what's possible, the example of how you want to live, like the relationships that you want to have. They're watching, right? More is caught than taught. And so they're watching you more than they're listening to what you're saying. In fact, my kids listen to nothing that I say, but they do start to mimic some things, right? And so it's my husband and I both work out every day. And so sometimes when I'm walking out the door, my daughter, who's 3.5, she'll be like, you going to work out, mama? And it makes me happy every time she says that because it's an expectation, not because I tell her you should work out every day. I've never said any of that ever. She just watches me and that's what I do. So with money, you're so spot on. It's like the math is only one half of it, and the other half is absolutely your thoughts about it. Your thoughts create your results at the end of the day.
Mhm.
What I find though is that some of my clients were struggling to really believe their thoughts about money. Like you can approach it one way or the other. You can either, if it
we
works for
need
you,
we need both.
work on your stories until you feel safe enough to then take the actions that are required. Or I just find it's easier, or it was for me and for a lot of my clients who are like, they're action oriented. Like a lot of them are in a lot, they're masculine energy and they're like, okay, just give me a plan. Like, tell me what to do. Give me homework. And the harder homework is to unpack their stories, right? And you can't hide from it any longer when you've done the math.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. It's like, okay, just do this math. And then once you've done that, then it's like, oh, all the real drama comes up. It all bubbles up to the surface. And you're like, wow, it's working now.
Yeah.
Why do I still feel unsafe, or why do I still feel nervous? And so in terms of the relationship with your parents, like I think that with money, I watch a lot of my clients who are kind of workaholics as their tendency, and their real strong uh, attachment to their self-worth is through the earnings game. They feel the most proud of themselves and when they're earning and hitting these milestones, and when they're not, it feels very upsetting to them.
Yeah.
And one of those subconscious models that I've found in a lot of people is this idea of you make money when you work hard. And so a value is actually not necessarily in the money, but it was in hard work.
Right.
And that is something that I never say to my kids
Yeah.
is like, if you work hard, you'll make a lot of money. In fact, on the opposite, I tell my kids it's actually really easy to make money,
Yeah.
but it's also easy to do other things too. So you just have to be conscious about
Yeah,
it.
totally. And it's
Easy to do.
what I hear you share in that is it's like because it sounds like you've had a pretty you had this secure, I love these words, this, you said you had secure attachment with your parents, right? And so then it sounds like this created this pretty early on solid foundation of for your relationship with money. And it's like, because the other thing I hear too is it's like, okay, if we look at, let's say, the relationship with money and then also like the skill set of managing and knowing how to be with money, um I'm just sitting here thinking like, well, of course, then if you take like someone like me who's been through a lot of childhood trauma and did not have secure attachment with my parents, um, then it's like, yeah, if we take that combination of like an unsecure attachment with parents, combine that with we're not taught the skill set in school, and then all of a sudden these women are making a lot of money. It's like, of course, then it becomes this roller coaster, right? Of
It's
like,
a
how
disaster.
do
It's a
I?
disaster.
Mhm.
I get so upset when I think about how little these brilliant, overeducated, overqualified in every category
Mhm.
women are, and
Yeah.
they still feel unsafe because they literally don't know the basics of financial literacy. And
Mhm.
last week I just did a week dedicated to this called the Most Interesting Week of Your Life Money Edition. And we went through the money games and I just like gave all of it. I was like, here is all of the basics of financial literacy. Beyond this is just like extra nerd shit. But if you just do these things, you will feel the momentum. You will feel the shift. You will trend in the right direction, which is the goal. And then when you feel like, ah, okay, I'm trending in the right direction, then it becomes safer to take risks. And when we talk about like our relationships with money, our relationships with our parents, all of this really is about safety because money's not real. Like your
Mhm.
relationship with your parents in the past is over. Like your relationship with them actually is what you're thinking about them right now. And so all of that is about how do we create safety for us to take more risks. When I
Mhm.
talk about my community of the most interesting women in the world, the way that a lot of people define that for themselves of their most interesting life are all of these things that are inherently risky or dangerous. They're doing things that are in the 1% that most people don't do because they're either hard, they're unusual, they're not easy to I don't know, maneuver or to bet on yourself in.
Mhm.
And the only reason you're going to go after a life like that, because it's actually choosing negative emotion on the front end and reaping the positive emotion on the back end, is
Mhm.
if you have the
Yeah.
foundational basis of safety across the board in all areas of your life. And how you do that is through your thoughts
Mhm. Mhm.
and your stories. And so the money story, yeah, like I don't think you can have a clean money story when in the background you're going, but I don't actually know what it's going to cost to retire. Like actually, and you can feel so safe in all of your stories and all of the things that you work to do. But then I have this woman that I'm coaching one-on-one, and she was just so triggered the other day by the fact that she like they have so much money in the bank, but it's vague and they have four children and they have a really like high lifestyle that they like to live, and she doesn't, it's just still a little bit vague. And
So,
so she's not leaving a job that she wants to leave. And I know that she can afford to leave because she's not quite sure if the math is going to math.
right.
That's
100%. It's what I'm here. It's almost like it's like, let's say a woman in business, she's doing all of the internal work, nervous system beliefs, da da da, but then that she doesn't know any strategy. It's like, so we need both of those things together.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
100%.
awesome. So, okay, so can you please share them? Because I did have a little quick stalk of your Instagram
Oh,
before.
you did?
Of course. So, yeah, do you want to talk about like the six money games, and yeah, just really through the lens of like some practical tips even that yeah, listeners can take away, and I'll be writing notes as well, to
Absolutely,
yeah, to
absolutely.
really have. what you've been talking about and more of the just more of the certainty and the financial literacy. Like, where would you
Yeah.
recommend someone starts with all of that?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that well, I'll tell you what the 6 money games are, and then we can talk about how you can start to get comfortable diving in and playing them because I think a lot of people like to kind of study at an arm's distance, but the way that I teach it is jumping in and applying it right away, and that's how you start to build that confidence. It's kind of like trying to read a book on riding a bike, and that's not going to work. You have to actually get on the bike and start riding it. And then you'll see, okay, it's not as dangerous as I think. Okay, it's not as complicated. It's not as overwhelming as I think that it is. And that's the thing that I see stalling people out, which overall is going to end up costing you compound interest, which is other than, love and gravity, like the coolest force of all time. Compound interest is just going to make you so much free. It's like free money. It just falls from the sky. Yeah. So we don't want to miss out on that. And yeah, one of my biggest regrets is because, and this is the reason that I have a podcast called Fun Money, is because I want women to feel like money is more approachable because I don't know about where you live, but in America, it was, it was anyway. I still think it is though, very common for fathers to talk to their sons about money, but not their daughters.
Mm,
And that was my experience. And my dad loves me so much. And I actually think like we're more similar in terms of personality types, but he just subconsciously, I think, thought that my future husband was going to handle it. And you know what? He
mm,
did until we got divorced. And
mm.
so it was just
Right.
so upsetting to me. So I'm just really passionate about this is that it's not complicated. And anyone who is teaching you that money is complicated probably wants you to think it's complicated because they stand to benefit from you being in the dark. Whether
Yeah.
that's a financial advisor, listen, it's really complicated. Give it to me. I have lots of opinions, which I won't get into here today, about the industry of the financial advisor industry because most of it is structured for them to take a percentage of your money, which is completely unnecessary for the amount. Like you need them to have a conversation every so often, but you can pay them hourly, and there are hourly advisors. So I really recommend that. That's one practical tip.
Like
Um,
as you're speaking, like what I kind of see is it's like what I've seen is it's almost like there is such a big distance between like, okay, over here we have the everyday Joe or like Susan, who's, just learned what they learned in school, which is, fuck all. And then
mhm.
and then they're just like working in a job and they spend some, they save some, whatever. And then over here it's like you have financial advisors and like people on Wall Street, and it's like these experts and they're so smart and they're geniuses, and it's like these two, but it's like where's the in between? And we
Yeah.
haven't been
Yeah.
shown enough models and examples of like where's the in between. So I feel like
Yeah, I'm so glad that you gave those exact examples because that's that is capitalism at its finest. Like people trying to make you feel really dependent on like it's too complicated, so we're the geniuses over here and like I'm gonna make some spreadsheets and show you something really complicated of your own money so that you be like, okay, this is over my head. You keep looking at it, you keep making the decisions. And the investing. All right, so here are the 6 money games: earning, spending, saving, investing, having, and giving money. So the earning game is the most obvious one, especially for entrepreneurs, right? I don't know if most of the people you're listening to are entrepreneurial, that are your audience. Yeah. And so you guys know the earning game. First of all, so rad. Most people aren't entrepreneurs. And so I think that it's really cool when you're also playing this earning game in such a different way, such an exciting way where you just think of something in your brain and then it becomes reality and then it turns into cash in your pocket. It's so rad. It still just makes me happy just to think about.
Yeah.
And then there's the spending game, which of course, as you know, some people listening are like, I'm really good at the spending game. Yeah, baby. Like it just comes in. I know how to send it out back into the world. And that's okay. I think I was taught as a child. I was taught as a child that you're either a spender or a saver. Were you kind of taught that?
Yes, and I definitely have been. I'm gonna say like I'm changing things now, but have been a spender for sure. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like
And I think also like it's reinforced. Like people will be like, oh, my parents even were like, Jess is the spender, Chase is the saver. My brother was more conservative, was more of a saver. He would like hoard his money. And then he would ask my parents for money. And I never asked my parents for money because I worked and then I spent it and then I just worked again and spent it. But you know, what I learned as an adult, and I think what I associated as a child with the spender saver thing is like, well, if I have to choose, I'd rather be a spender because spending is fun and savers are boring. And fun is a core value for me. So I was like, no, I'm gonna, and, but what we kind of think, right? The
which is
savers think,
speaking to identity, right? Like I
yes.
core identity and value, and that's just why it can be so
Mhm.
hard to change. So yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
100.
and that identity of the savers, right? Everyone kind of the reason why you do identify as one thing is because in some way you value that identity a little more than the other identity. So for me, I valued being fun over valuing being responsible.
Yeah.
And I think savers sometimes valued being responsible over being fun.
Well, it's almost like they value it's like they value certainty, and whereas we value variety more. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
I have a higher value because I value fun on like variety more than like certainty. So that yeah.
Yeah, everyone has their different words that they identify. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not even, certainty, uncertainty, responsible, irresponsible, fun, not, but like the whatever word triggers you enough to put you into that action, right? Like that's what really matters. So we want to get to know our stories about how we're identifying. And so for me, I identified as an earner. I was like I was an earner since the day I could earn. I loved to work. I always was like, if there's anything I want to do, I'll just go make money. I'll just go make more. And I'm still like that. So it doesn't feel hard to me because that's an identity. Yeah. So like a really core thing in all of these games is to have an identity within each of the six money games that serves you to play at the highest level. So to look at them, right, when you're a spender, you have to figure out, well, there's nuance here. I love to spend money. Well, who am I within that? Like, I am to me now other identities, sub identities, I would say, is I'm masterful budgeter. And I don't even really love that word because it feels like constraint, but I've come to also have really like positive, sexy relationship with constraint. I
Mm,
feel powerful when I say, "Oh, I want that," and I'm going to put it in my budget. And then when the money is in that category, I'm going to buy it. And I
mhm,
feel so powerful. I'm like, most people don't have the willpower to desire something, trust and know that it's coming to you,
mhm,
and put a pin in it.
mhm,
Because it's not the buying the thing that's actually going to give me the joy. Now, because of the way that I teach my clients to budget, I actually have trained people to get a dopamine hit from saving up to spend.
mhm,
So, I am a huge fan of a very specific app called You Need a Budget. And I train my clients on that because it has a bit of a front loaded, it can be a little bit confusing, I find. And but I've turned all of my clients into nerds about this. And whenever anyone's like, oh, I have this offer, one of my clients is a professional organizer and she just rolled out this like wifey offer where she's like basically like going into people's houses and I'm going to be a wife for you and do all these organizing things and mentally and otherwise in your home. And everyone's like, oh, we're all like, we all want it. Everyone's like, put it in your wine app, which is the acronym for you need a budget. And so, like, that has been really fun to see in this culture of these women who are making money. Do they have the money in their account to spend on that? A lot of them do, but there's a difference between checking your checking account and checking your credit card statement and basing whether you can afford something in this very black and white way of, oh, can I afford it? Well, everyone asks a different secondary question. Can I afford it? Let me check my checking account. Can I afford it? Do I have more money on my credit limit? Can I afford it? Well, can I get open another credit card? Can I afford it? Well, what maybe I'm going to get money back for my taxes. Like everyone looks in a different way. For me, when I think about spending, I don't ask the question, can I afford it? I know I can afford it eventually. It's by when will this be the priority with my money? And I can see that by the ways that I've chosen to give every dollar a roll, through the budgeting app, through just my habits there. Again, I can't go into a full masterclass here, but that
Yeah.
is the spending game.
Mhm.
Saving wise, right? I had to tweak a little things definitely for myself about it's sexy to save and also thinking about it not as this vague thing. Because when I thought about savings, I thought, oh, that's for too far away in the future that it wasn't it wasn't fun at all. I was like, well, I'll be old by then and I won't, versus thinking all about all of the different categories of savings where there's savings between now and the end of the year. Okay, let's say I want to give my team a bonus or I want to take my family to Japan. These are all things that I have been able to say I want to do. And then 3 months to 6 months from now, I can do it because I made the conscious decisions every month to not spend, but to assign that money specifically towards that. And
Mhm.
then also setting really automated habits about, well, how much money do I want to save per month? And, savings looks like a lot of different things, but you can just contribute to an automated, money market platform. So for me, my SEP IRA, which is like for entrepreneurs, is my core vehicle that I use to have compound interest. And at the end of the day, as you trickle down these money games, earning, spending, saving, investing, having, giving, they do become a little more advanced and a little more nuanced because in order to invest, you have to earn, then you have to cut out what you're spending on, then you have to make sure that you're saving for the core things that might come up, the liquid cash, and then we go to invest. And then, hey, okay, we're investing. What's the next game? Having money.
Mhm.
What a novel concept. Did you know that having money is a completely different skill than making it? Making money and just having it, not reacting to it. It's like, what does that even mean to have money? And so for me, I realized like, whoa, actually, even as I was getting better and better with all of these games, I realized that as soon as money came in, I felt this compulsion to want to make a decision about it. And recently, I've been playing with this idea of like money comes in, and I'm just like, do nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. So I've shifted my goals. Now, every year you used to set an earning goal. I still have earning goals, to be honest, but the ones that I'm really excited about are my net worth goals. That's the having game. So
Mhm.
you're shifting from thinking about, oh, I want to make this amount, but now it's like, well, I want to compound. I want to increase the abundance in the having so that I'm not um just again keeping my financial thermostat the same and just no matter how much comes in, it goes out. And then yeah, and then finally giving is the final game, which is just the most fun. And Shosh said one time, and it is perfectly describes how I feel about my desires to make more and more every year. It doesn't feel like this rat race thing that I think a lot of people do get into of like, well, just the next milestone, and maybe I'll feel something when I hit this next milestone. It's like to me, now it's about, okay, well, what's the most insane way that I can give? How much more can I give? What would it look like? How much would it cost for me to create my own scholarship? What would it, who, to be an angel investor, to join this thing? How much would you have to invest or give away to other people? And I just sponsored through Annie Porter, sponsored a girl in Kenya through Mission with a Vision. And that's been incredible. And on Friday, my husband and I are having it's our wedding anniversary, and we are throwing a party, and we're like paying for everyone to come to dinner. We're getting a party bus, and then we're going to karaoke, and we're just like paying for all of it for our friends because we're just like, what is the point of money? This is what money is for. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. Don't feel overwhelmed. I don't know that much more than you guys.
No, no, that was amazing, and I th like there's so much gold in that, and like at the end of this, we'll definitely, obviously, we'll put your socials in show notes, and also like if there's some kind of like a freebie or like some kind of thing where people can start that journey of like plugging into what you've been talking about today. But like one of the things that really stood out in that for me that I heard was like, okay, for example, with the saving is, and especially for people who have this thing around saving is boring, like savings for boring people, of like linking, it's like, okay, if what am I saving for versus just like saving as a generic thing. So what I heard in that was really linking saving
Mm,
to specific things that we desire, and that we value.
hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable advice for a lot of people, including me as well.
Yeah, and the habit in general, I think, is more important than the screenshot. So if you're at a moment, and I'm telling you, like, it wasn't that long ago that I was telling that story where I was a single mom and I was starting from $0 basically, and I had not invested at all. And I was 31, and it wasn't that long ago, and already, I've now crossed into $1 million net worth. And it can happen really fast when you just abide by the math principles. And I told you during that time too, I was making 18 grand a year. So things can happen really fast. It matters more that you're trending in the right direction, that you start the habit. So whether it's that you want to pay yourself more consistently, or whether you want to invest, or you want to save, like, I'd rather set up a plan to invest $10 a week
Hmm.
every week. That alone will end up being a habit that really, obviously, as early and as often as you can. Invest early and often is the mantra of one of my great financial mentors. It's Boglehead's Guide to Bogleheads, this great book. It's an old book. And really, it's this tried and true set it and forget it method. Play the entire market. Just invest early and often, and you will end up finding that you don't need to know what's happening politically, or is Tesla going to do well. This, I don't care. I don't look at the news to see what my stocks are doing. Why? Because I play the whole market. The whole market's going to go up and it's going to go down, but over time, the market will, it has historically for its entirety of existence trended up, and we're playing a long game here when it comes to those games.
Yes, I love that. It's like the saying that Shosh was sharing about the man who has a net worth of like $100 million or something, and he says like play long-term games with long-term people. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, I think that's so, just that concept and that line is so valuable again for so many people, because I feel like so many people are in this instant gratification mindset. But
Yeah.
okay, I feel like, so the final piece I want to touch on, and I want to link it back into something you were sharing earlier on, is like if you if you were to give advice on like where is that line, because obviously as entrepreneurs we need to be taking risks and like investing in this thing, or like, you know, this
Mm,
podcast studio or this mentor, etc. But you were talking about like, but so many people, women, they're just kind of closing their eyes and crossing their fingers. So I guess like, what would you say is like where, how would be a practical, tangible way for female entrepreneurs to find like where is that line of discernment between
mm.
you know,
Being reckless.
having taking a risk that's really healthy and it's like courageous versus like I'm just gonna do this and just like kind of crossing the eyes and
Yeah. It's
crossing
a
the fingers and
great Yeah, cross all their
eyes.
eyes and their toes, and then yes, close their eyes, cross their fingers. I think I mean, it's a brilliant question. Everyone should be asking themselves this of like, what what makes me feel safe? Well, essentially for me, it's always about my relationship with my future self. For me, what makes someone reckless in their decision making is they're doing something right now and they're closing their eyes, as in they're just hoping that it works out and they're not creating accountability for themselves to continuously check back in. Sometimes have in the past, and I continue to make decisions that don't perfectly math out. And I think that's okay. And right, like as in, for example, recently I made a 30K investment and I didn't have all of the 30K earmarked for that. And it was a high, and I didn't have in receivables like all of it that would be coming in over the time that I need to pay it out. So that would be something that, if I told my brother, who's a very logical, practical thinker and is not an entrepreneur, also, he might be like, that was reckless, right? Like he might define it as reckless, but for me, it wasn't because anytime I make an investment, I am not just thinking about what I'm doing right now. I'm not thinking about my current money. I said earlier, the question I'm not asking is, can I or can't I afford this? It's a really short-sighted way of looking at it. It's, do I believe that this investment is going to give me the return on investment that I'm looking for? Is this bringing me closer to the my most interesting life, the version of me that I want to become? And do I believe that I'm someone that is going to be able to bridge the gap? And the answer to all of those things, when it's yes, 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 I think is a wise decision. In fact, I really, really question people who desire something strongly and then don't move towards that desire. It's like the second I desire something, it's kind of a done deal. Now, this doesn't, this, I'm not talking about instant gratification. It doesn't mean like, oh, I want those Louis Vuittons, YOLO. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I desire something. If I really want Louis Vuittons, like, let's use that as an example. If it's a thing that isn't going to return on investment, I'm saying I want that. I'm going to get it by when I set a deadline, and then I go about getting back into the earnings game. I will go into my spendings game and my budget, and I'll be like, where could I pull back here so that I can math it? You become a real ninja when you're playing all six of the games at the same time. I could be like, I could pause my savings automation for 1 month. I could lower this expense and I can make this more. And suddenly a $3,000 gap becomes 1K, 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 and it's done in 1 month versus, oh, or am I willing to wait a little bit longer? Or do I want it right now? And if I want it right now, then I have to go hop into the earnings game and be like, it's a cash injection. Or have I done it before where I've gone even into my investments and pulled out of the investments? I've done it one time. Don't recommend that to anyone. However, for me, in the short term, long term game, it did make sense because I was like, also, I had just read this book called The Measure, which, have you heard of this book? It's an okay book, but the concept mind blowing still, which is that everyone in the world gets these boxes with a red string in it.
Mhm.
And the string turns out to be the measure of your life. So it's like it's the length of it is how many days you have left to live. And it rocked my world because we just all walk around assuming that we're long stringers when half of the people were like short stringers. And we all know this in theory, but reading it, there was something about the new analogy and this visual of having a string and knowing, would you open your box? What would you do if you were a short stringer? And all of a sudden, these thoughts about all of, I'd shifted so much in the direction from being a spender to being someone who was thinking so much about the future, in the far future, that I was like, you know what? My husband wants these new windows in our house. And what if I could just pay for them right now? And I want to do that. And also, I believe that that is going to be a rounding error when we're getting to retirement because I am an aggressive earner. I am a high saver. This is a one-time thing. It's not my habit. So all of that aligned to me still not breaking down trust with myself. It all just built up more and more trust. I got more and more excited. And then I was like, yes, this feels like a hell yes for me. So you have to, again, bring it back to that identity and really feel like, is this bringing me closer to the person that I want to be?
Yes. Yeah, I love that because I feel like for so many entrepreneurs it's like of course when they're looking at an investment like say a 12-month mastermind or and I've done this like so much of the over the last 10 years of I look at a 12-month mastermind, the repayments are say $3,000 a month. I mean, in 2024, I was at one point investing 4,000 a month into coaching. But when I first sign up for the 12 months, like there's no guarantee. It's not like I have that $36,000 in my
Yeah,
savings account where I have this
yeah, yeah.
certainty. But it's, but I think it's so important because then it's like, I feel like if women they make that decision and then maybe there is like a month or two where it's like shit they're late or they can't make the payment and then they create a story of like well I'm bad with money and I can't
Mm,
trust myself and um yeah so what I really hear in that is just it links all back to really self-trust and believing in self.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, at
As
the end of the day,
yeah,
money's made up.
money,
Like, it's not real. And what you believe is going to drive your actions. And so, what the second you start creating this whole story about yourself that you're not good with money, you're going to prove that true, right? Because of
right.
confirmation bias. You're going to go out there and your brain is going to filter all of the things it's not going to see, it's not going to recognize the wins. It's going to be like, but it's going to put caveats on all of that. And it's going to just become your whole world. And then you'll be like, see? And it's like, well, yeah, see, the evidence is here because you created that. Did you see that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. And I've even seen that it becomes then it also then becomes a block for women. Like I've literally worked with women and one of the blocks that comes up for like, oh, I want to be making this amount per month or per year, but then the block is, oh, but I'm bad with money. Or like I don't
Mhm.
trust myself with money. So I feel
Mhm.
like as well is like learning, getting better at the financial literacy and like learning the things that you're talking about and what is it, the six money games can help with that so much rather than getting caught in like the emotions and the stories of like, well, I'm bad with money or like
Yeah, what
something.
does that even mean when people say I'm bad
Yeah.
with money? What are you're good, you're bad, right? Like, what does that mean, right? If my son's like, if someone's like, I'm a good girl, I'm a bad girl. It's like, y- what does that mean? No, everyone is terrible and amazing. Everyone. I was just saying this to someone today. Like, we are all absolute rock stars and pieces of shit rolled up into one. And when you like just own that, and when you say, right, there's a piece of me that has a history that has some things that I'm not proud of, the decisions that I've made with some money things and some areas where I didn't take full ownership or where I put myself in a situation that I didn't like. And that's the past. That's just over, right? It doesn't have to be your story right now. So I think just understanding that you're not the person that you were yesterday is a good concept for every kind of growth that you want to have. I was not a fitness person until I was 26, and then I was like, I'm a fitness person now. And I think people were like kind of jolted by how quickly I made that leap from someone who didn't ever enter a gym to someone who was fitness coaching. I got so into it. And like, half marathons, the whole deal. And it's like, well, oh, like you changed. It's like, yeah, I just every day, why aren't, isn't that what we're here to do? Right? We're just here to ch completely reinvent ourselves every day. that's the fun part of being alive. And so for you, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, well, that's me. I kind of do have this story that I'm bad with money. And how do I just go from today to tomorrow being like, I'm great with money, right? But your brain's gonna be like, no, you're not, you liar. Like, well, a bridge gets to be, oh, I'm building up my trust and I'm making smart choices now. So I'm learning. For me, that my first identity was like,
I'm learning financial literacy.
yeah, or like I'm a nerd, I'm like really nerding out on this stuff. And that made me feel it was playful and it was fun and it also was a bit of an identity that felt fair enough to say of like I it felt active instead of like a statement. So that can be fun. I'm always just I think our articulation is so important because our if our thoughts create our results, what is a thought? A thought is just a sentence made up of words. The words that you're choosing are so important. They each carry a different frequency. And so you could just like swap out one word, try it on. We try on thoughts like we try on a hat. And we have to see, like at first it might feel not feel like you just practice. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, maybe I'm a hat person now. Maybe.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Yeah, I love that so much. So, yeah, there's so much, and I feel like we could talk for another hour. And I'm also aware of like, okay, I have half an hour between now and my next call, and I need to eat lunch. Um, so,
Yeah, I'm
so
gonna go to bed. Actually, no, I'm just
it's
kidding.
getting,
An
yeah, it's
hour.
getting dark there. Because yeah, so thank you so much for jumping on here today, and we will definitely. So we will share your Instagram handle. Do you want to just share quickly here what your handle is?
Yes. Yes. Come connect with me over on Instagram at Jess McKinley Uyeno. You know, it's spelled like it spells Jess JessmckinleyUyeno. It's just a Japanese mind trickery, Ueno. And also, I'm gonna make sure that we get you guys the fun money bucket list because to me, it's really important that when you're starting this journey, it feels fun and it doesn't feel like more work. Like, who needs another thing on their plate that they need to master and learn? And it's no, this gets to be, it's games on purpose. It's fun. It really is easy. And when you start to think about this journey of mastery and becoming more wealthy and becoming more financially literate as a bucket list thing, there's little things that you're going to be like, oh, I did that and I created 10K in my savings and I created a net worth that's positive. Like versus like some of us have a negative net worth, right? And that's okay if you're just getting started and we just want to trend in the right direction. So I have a fun money bucket list for you to even just figure out like how do I start playing these games so you can figure out one at a time you can start checking them off.
Yay! So excited. I will
Yay.
definitely be looking into that myself. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all your wisdom. And yeah, I'm sure I'll invite you on again soon.
I know, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys for listening. I can't wait to connect with you guys offline and I can't wait to listen to this episode back. I'm gonna really listen. I love our conversation so much and hopefully next time I see you, I'll bring a brush, I'll brush your hair. We're gonna make sure we get all of our fit all of our physical touch love out.
I'm here for it. I'm
You
ready.
guys, stop listening. This is a private moment.
Awesome. All right, thanks
Everyone have an amazing
everyone.
day.